Podcast, a weekly live show where we explore the power of culture and leadership in business. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers, and we go live every week to learn from each other and hear from other experts about how to effectively champion our team members and ourselves. So join us live every Wednesday on our social networks or subscribe. You can listen to Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now, let's champion your culture.
Hey, what's going on, George? It's Wednesday.
Good morning. You ever remember those times where you wake up and your mom was like, good morning, how are you?
Yeah. Although my mom was Christian, so she's saying, what did she sing? Gosh,
keep on thinking about wake up, the sun is up, the dew is on.
There's like songs like that drive me nuts now because let's do a song like Easy Like Sunday Morning. You want to sing it together? Easy like Wednesday morning. Yeah. Easy 1, like 2, 3. Easy like Wednesday morning. Oh, thanks. You bring the bass in. It's more like a tenor bass.
Yeah. Welcome everybody. Thank everybody for joining us here on Champion Your Culture, the podcast sponsored as always by Culture of Good. I'm excited as always for you to be joining us, me and Ryan here this week with a special guest. It's an honor for me. I'm gonna have two of my closest friends in one place on a Wednesday, so I'm very excited about that with our special guest Ben Eubanks. He's gonna be joining us here in a little bit. But as always, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live on any platform that you're choosing to listen to us with. If you listen to us live or watching live, join in and on the chat, chime in on some questions. We're going to have a lot of fun today, as always, with Ryan and the Ben Eubanks. And so we're excited about having him today with us.
Yeah. How are you doing today, George? Good.
You know, today is a good day. As you can tell, I have not had any coffee. I've only had 2 bottles of water. So like my system's like flushed. I'm feeling clean. And energized. I am preparing here in about 2 weeks in July, first of July. I'm gonna do like a 3-day juicing. So I'm preparing mentally for that, getting every nasty carb and food. So this weekend, I'm just gonna eat a bunch of junk and then cleanse it out.
Take advantage of the cleanse by just destroying your body.
Destroying my body, and then I'm gonna get it right.
I think back to what was it? The movie where he's at the end, he's singing and he's got food all over him. He's singing, "My milk jugs bring all the boys to the yard." What was that?
I have no clue, but when you sing that, all I think about is the original song. You know, that's usually the way it works. You think about the original song versus the actual song.
And I all of a sudden this commercial jumps into my head where this guy's taking his baby, giving it a break because it's crying in the middle of the night, and the baby tries to latch on, and then everything goes blank and says, "Need to start working out again." You know, like, so yeah, hopefully your cleanse and all that works well. I'm not feeling as chipper as you. My daughters moved back to the house. For those that don't know, I have a 31-year-old and 26-year-old daughter, and they moved back into the house. And unfortunately, the humidifier last night set the alarm off at 4 a.m. So this morning at 4 a.m, and I live in an old remodeled church, so there's like 12, 13, 14 foot ceilings. And so I was up on a ladder at 4 o'clock this morning trying to get this alarm to go off and couldn't figure it out for like literally 20 minutes, running through the house, trying to turn alarms off. Finally, I had to disconnect the entire thing. It's hardwired into the ceiling. It would not go off. So yeah, I'm hyped up on a lot of caffeine this morning. So, but I'm here and I showed up. So, and I'm excited because we have none only than Ben Eubanks with us. Are we ready to have him jump in?
Let's bring him on. He's got so much knowledge. Let's get him on here.
All right, Ben, here we are. Okay, Ben, what's up, man?
Hey, guys. So I'll tell you really quickly. The thing that I used to do for my kids, I still do it now. Still young enough to do it. But they'll wake up and I'll be like, it's going to be a beautiful day. It's going to be a wonderful day. I don't care what you say. It's going to be a beautiful day. And I'm like getting them pumped up for the day. So I made my own song. I got sick of all the other ones.
Oh, I remember what it is my mom used to sing. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's time to rise and shine. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's over and over and over. Yeah, that. So
Oh, wow.
it's almost one of those tunes that you hear in the background of a horror movie when something bad is about to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, it's so great to have you on the show today. A lot of our listeners, I'm assuming, would know who you are, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do and why you do it.
Sure. Absolutely. So that's the list is a long one, and I always forget and leave something out. But by day, I'm a researcher. So I try to understand what's trending, what's changing in the workplace, how the workforce feels about work, how employers are trying to solve for problems there. That's what I do. I run a company called Lighthouse Research and Advisory, and spend my days trying to really get into the nuts and bolts of that. Not just to know the stuff, right? I'm not an academic. I've came from the business side. So I do that in order to share insights with employers that want to understand what to do next, what decision to make, what to stop doing, all that kind of stuff. So it's a blast for me to be able to be that translator, if you will, from the data to some practical action for employers. Run an event called HR Summer School. Just finished our amazing 2023 event last week. That was a blast.
That was awesome, man. How many people showed up for that?
Goodness. We had more than 2,000 live at the peak there. And I was telling George the other day, over 1 million minutes of summer school been watched in just the first 5 days. So,
oh my gosh,
just ridiculous and fun. And it's all meant to not just give a bunch of knowledge, because a lot of events out there, webinars, everything else, give plenty of knowledge. It's let's give you some insight, but let's also give you some encouragement that you're doing work that matters. And so I get really excited about those kinds of things. That's why I love the work that y'all do here with the podcast, because you're helping to remind people this isn't just about going through the motions one more day, just doing one more list of tasks, but how do we make sure we're really championing things that we care deeply about, that we prioritize in our lives, and so on. So I was having fun a minute ago listening backstage to all the personal stuff, because that's who we are. That's what we're about. And so not just jumping into the details of things, but again, there's lots of good stuff there. I've written a couple of books, lots of good things in the background there for me. It'll probably come out in the conversation, but I started out in HR and now get a chance to support and serve business leaders, talent leaders that want to serve their people better. And it's just a joy.
Yeah. I talk to HR people all the time, and you know, when I talk to them, it's like, you kind of got tricked into it, didn't you? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, they put human in the title just because like it draws people that really love people. I mean, that's what I've noticed is I've been in the HR circles. I'm like, HR people loved people. That's a problem, right? Because they went into that work for the opportunity to have impact, to be in business, but also to make a difference, right? And I think sometimes we lose that over time. It becomes less and less human, and business doesn't feel human a lot of times. And I'm curious around just what you're hearing during summer school. I mean, you have all of that. You're a researcher, so I would imagine your brain's going 1,000,000 miles a minute as you're talking to people, because you're like, okay, what am I hearing most of, right?
Yes.
like you're observing in the dialogue. So what are people struggling with? Not in terms of just their work, but also like you're talking about, we as humans, what's going on?
Well, goodness, there's a broad spectrum there. I'll tell you, the thing that we've seen over the last couple of years is when we talk about things like burnout and stress, and we talk about that in this abstract sense, like, oh yeah, they're dealing with that over there. But the data show that HR leaders are dealing with it more than anyone else, because they're like the nurses of the workforce. They're the ones who are caring for the patients who are sick. They're the ones who are taking care of people with really challenging diagnoses. And so HR is in the middle of those things and is absorbing a lot of that frustration, a lot of that sentiment. And so we're seeing those kind of things pop up over and over again. And the flip side of that is, at the event last week, dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of comments from people saying, this is what I get re-energized. This is what reminds me why I do this. This is what I look forward to. It's my, this is my 4 a.m. I've got to have a lot of caffeine to survive the day for Ryan over there. This is what this is for all these other people in HR. And that's what I love about it. The other parallel, as you're talking a minute ago, like we get into it because we love humans. The other parallel I was thinking of is, a lot of friends of mine have gotten in the teaching world, And then it's not even about the kids anymore. It's about the test. It's about, administration. It's about this requirement. And like, it's not about anything I got into it for. And my fear is that HR is going to fall into that same kind of trap and feel like they have to leave to get reconnected. And what I find, and you know this, Ryan, you know this, George, because y'all are working with employers all the time. The companies that really care about what their culture's like, that care about their people, they're out there. You just got to find one of those companies. And unfortunately, if you're not at one of those companies, it doesn't matter how much you care about HR and great people practices, you're going to always have a lid on you based on what the leaders think about that.
Yeah. I, as you're talking, Ben, I'm thinking about how often do we lose sight of our purpose? How often do we lose sight of our why and what we're doing? We get into it for the right reason, and then somehow business, stress, burnout, all these things that lead to those places distract us, and or the business kind of pivots, right? I've seen it many times where an organization, small business, and all of a sudden it's a growing business, and we kind of lose sight. We become profit centric versus people centric, right? And we lose sight of that connection and engagement with our employees. I know, just because I have the honor of being on the team of Lighthouse, and I'm kind of like this torn between two lovers. I got, I'm able to connect with Ryan. I'm connected to Ben, and I'm here, like, I'm holding on tight to two great men, two great fathers, two great husbands. And I'm learning a lot from both of you. But I think about that losing sight of identity piece, and in a sense losing sight of being connected and engaged with what really brought you there. Speak a little bit about that, from an insight, from an engagement, and how leaders, not just employees, but HR leaders as well. I've seen a lot in the chat last week. We talked about being authentic, and some people said me being authentic means I don't know who I am and what I'm doing. I'm living day to day, checking the box, right? And I've lost that true engagement. What does that look like, and what is some of the data say on that? Because I'm intrigued, and I'm really here just to see you smile. And the only time I see you smile is when you talk about data.
Data is so important because data doesn't lie, right?
Well, I have to caveat that with the data is not what I love. It's what I love it unlocking for us, right? It unlocks the next decision. It unlocks how we change. It unlocks how we adapt to serve our people. So the big thing that I found in the research in the last year, one of the biggest findings for me on this authenticity piece, is we have to know our people and know them, really know them. One of the things that popped out in a study we finished last year, we asked workers, does your manager support you? And there was almost a 0% chance statistically that someone would say yes to that question if they didn't first say they understand me. They get me, not just my job title, not just my pay rate, right? You're a $20 an hour accountant or whatever else, but they know what makes me tick. They know what gets me excited, right? They know that Ryan has daughters that have just moved back home, and so he may be a little bit extra stressed this week, right? Or whatever else. They know those things about us and can tailor and adapt their style, their approach to us, right? That's what I think authenticity really is knowing that person for who they are, not for whatever they think they have to be, but for who they really are, and being able to do that ourselves. Unfortunately, HR leaders feel they have to put that mask on and hide behind it because they're professional, they're corporate, they're whatever else. And the best experiences I've ever had are when I left all that behind and would try to make a real connection with someone. Right, the time that I had to encourage a gentleman, 72 years old, we hired him only because I had his spouse come to the office and talk to her about how we're going to make sure and take care of him because she was worried about Sweet Bill, right? And those things like that are kind of silly little examples. But the best HR leaders are the ones who cut through all that and really connect with someone. And we find that across, not just in HR, but across the landscape of leadership, the ones who do the best, who have the greatest impact, aren't afraid to do that.
This is interesting because you talk about how we want leaders, and we all want leaders to be able to see us, right? To be able to hear us, to know who we are, what we care about. I remember the other day, a few weeks ago, I was walking by somebody's office and I just noticed an interesting little piece of art that was kind of like shoved in a corner up against a wall. And I was like, oh my God, that's pretty cool. What is that? And their face lit up and they're like, oh, let me tell you about that. And then I learned so much about their life, and it was just noticing something small. But this always goes back to me to self-awareness, right? Because there's absolutely no way for us to be aware of those on our team, to be able to see them when we can't see ourselves. And business over the decades has taught us to wear that mask, right? To put the mask on, to fake it till you make it, right? Fake the funk, just eat the shit sandwich, go through the motions, check the box, it's like over and over we're taught this. And so if we have leaders that aren't able to see us, there's a good chance that those leaders can't see themselves. Like that self-awareness for leaders, to me, leads into the authenticity. How can I be real when I don't really know me?
I'm going to take a fun and nerdy parallel to that. So other than just doing research on the trends, what's changing, we do research on the technologies and tools. Okay. So I don't know, this is not about that, but I'll bring it back to the hang time. So I'm doing a talk tomorrow on AI applications. And that was one of the talks we had last week. It was surprisingly popular to me on the event, because it was a little bit different from some of the other topics. I'm doing a talk on this tomorrow for a group in North Dakota. And one of the things that I'm going to talk to them about is there are now coaches and tools, digital coaches for managers that say, hey, George, I've been kind of watching you interact with your team over the last week. Did you know that you give Ryan twice as much feedback as you give Ben? I don't know if there's a reason for that, but I wanted to make you aware of it. Right. Wow. Or, hey, you haven't actually asked anyone on your team for feedback on how you can support them better in 3 weeks. Maybe you should take a moment to do that today. And so the tools and technologies are getting smarter, but it doesn't do it. It's not doing it for George. He's still got to step up and be the leader that we've hired him to be, that we have trained him to be, that we expect him to be, that his people are hoping he'll be. There's still a human part in this, even with all the fun technology and stuff around this, because it's really easy to get hyped up and all the, AI is going to change everything. It really is going to change a lot of things, but it's not going to replace that human connection piece. It can't not do that.
Love that. Yeah.
I'm thinking of, and I'm thinking of some of the data, Ben, that I'm doing now, and we got a new research coming out, with peace. And one of the data points that we were talking about just the other day is, how true of an impact that managers and leaders make when they're truly supporting their people. And how employees, with supportive managers are, two times more likely to have high retention. Like, I want to stay there. I want to belong there. We spent a lot of time, even last month, Ryan and I, as we spent the whole month last month on mental health awareness on all our podcast, episodes, and really kind of dug down deep into like some deep stuff, all the way to suicide and what leads to those thoughts and things of that nature. And I think about the worst of the worst. I think about the great of the great, high retention, low retention. And it really is resolved around leadership. And Ryan and I have been saying it for the last few weeks, everything rises and falls on leadership and the impact that managers can make. In the beginning of this conversation, we talk about the health of leaders and HR leaders and how important it is for them to stay healthy. There's got to be a balance, right, between the health of a leader and also the health of a team member, how we support those people and balance their relationship out with people. What do you see as a value between that balance of health as a leader? I'm leading people, but also how do I impact and bring value to my team in the midst of those things?
Yeah, there's lots of leadership behaviors that I look for, right, that the data indicates. Again, you're looking at some of the new stats, George, as well. And the data indicate things that a leader can do to really support their people. I'll give you an example, right? Everybody in the last 2 or 3 years has used this same analogy. Everyone, we've all heard it somewhere. Well, if you're in trouble, put your mask on first. I hate that analogy. All right, I'll just go ahead and lay that out. I hate that analogy. Yeah. What are they telling you on the plane? Hey, guess what? We're all about to crash. Put your mask on.
We're all dying. You want to feel this?
Yes.
Stay conscious.
There's a terrible outcome coming, right? There's an emergency. There's something dangerous. Put the mask on yourself first, and then maybe you can survive long enough to take care of whoever's next to you, right? You've got a child, whoever else. The metaphor that I've used instead, because once I heard that once or twice, I was like, that starts to make me feel a little bit icky. So I started using a different metaphor. Right? There's this amazing religious ceremony where you take a cup and you fill it until it's completely full, and you keep pouring until it runs over. And the metaphor is you can't serve someone else from an empty cup. These leaders we're talking about here, they can't serve someone when their cup is completely empty. Yeah. So if they are working for a senior leader who expects them to do it all like a robot, but not give them any feedback themselves or give them appreciation or say, hey, George, I know you're leading this big team. You've had a lot of stress lately. I want you to take Friday off and just spend some time with your family because you've been pushing it. And I want to take care of you. right? If they're not getting that model from the highest levels of leadership, then they're going to have a hard time being caught in the middle of all that. One of our good friends, Maria Scott, says that managers are employees too. They need some of the same things we're talking about here when they need a supportive leader too, right? Which is a fun conversation, kind of meta, to climb to the very top of that ladder and say, what did that person need? But all these other people that work in this in an organization that are at different levels of leadership expect and need that same level of support from their own in order to dole it out. An employee will never treat a customer better than their leader treats them. And we need to make sure we're empowering our leaders and giving them the tools, but also saying, hey, guess what? We know that you have this pile on top of that. And we're also saying, hey, by the way, in addition to all your functional stuff, go be a great people manager too, even though we haven't trained you on it. Good luck. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the reality for many of them today. And it's really easy, especially for me in HR, to say, well, they're the problem. Look, and in some cases they may be the issue, the point where it comes to a head. But there are other things we can be doing to select the right ones, to empower the right ones, to do the things that really help them be the best leader they want to be. They don't wake up saying, I hope I suck as a leader today. I hope I ruin someone's day. They don't do that, but they end up doing that on accident, unintentionally, because they're not quite sure the track should be running on. We don't tell them what great looks like. We just say, hey, don't do these things or we'll get in trouble with compliance, purposes. Don't do this thing. Don't discriminate. Don't do that. But we don't say, by the way, if you want to be an amazing leader, here's what it looks like. Here's what we expect out of you. Here's how we want you to achieve that.
That's powerful, man. Because like I just talked to a bunch of nurses down WOC nurses in Vegas at their conference opening keynote. And one of the things that I asked them was, how many of your role and responsibilities have changed since you were first hired? Everybody's hand raised. How many your leader and manager consistently checks in with you on a regular basis to ensure that what's expected of you, what that role entails, what the responsibilities are. Hands went down all over the place, right? So our jobs are constantly changing, but how we're empowering people is not. And so we end up promoting people like you're talking about rather than empowering them and equipping them. And when you promote people to a place that they've not been equipped or filled in, then you're asking them to, like you're mentioning, lead from a place of emptiness, right? Lead from a place where the glass is half empty, like literally.
So I have two really cool case studies on this, right? Not just, I don't want to talk about this stuff like in an abstract sense, like, hey, y'all go figure this out. I'll give you two examples of companies that are doing interesting things here. You want to hear them?
Well, can we take a break and then come back so everybody's on a cliffhanger? All right, you're gonna stay here because we do this funny thing called craziest shit in HR. I want to see your reactions to these two. Sorry, I know. Listen, Ben, just for all of our listeners, Ben, I've never heard Ben cuss. He is just straight and narrow, just like clean cut, never cusses and never gets upset. Look at that smile. So if we cuss or anything on here, that's on me. All right, here we go. All right, so craziest shit in HR, an IT guy who worked the overnight shift because he was doing support for our Asia group, got written up for improper use of company systems. He had dozens, if not hundreds, of Google images searches. I'm sorry, Ben. Related to foot fetish stuff, like insert celebrity your feet along with the random stuff like cute toes. Like, dude, you're in it. This stuff is tracked and that your boss can easily monitor it. So that's that's the first. We have IT people and HR people that are searching shit they should not be searching at work. Pretty bad. Another craziest shit in HR. The family of a guy who passed away came to speak to us. It was a factory environment to get pension docs. We sent them away to do a to-do list. 1 hour later, reception pinged us again. Mr. X's family was here. Strange. The documents would take a few days to get. Nope. New family. Yep. The guy had two different families who are about to have a fun surprise. All right. All right. And the last one. This is real stuff, guys. It's on the internet, so it's true. I was a recruiter. You'd have to be shocked to see what some people actually have as their personal email. Most people have come around to use just their name, but then every once in a while, you'll have to verify that Brown Glitter 69 is in fact how they would like to be contacted from their recruiter. And that, my friends, is the craziest shit in HR.
Oh my.
Sorry, Ben.
And Ben, you come back to this, man. Share your case study.
How about this? I'll share with you my crazy story, and then I'll go to the case studies.
Okay, perfect.
I'll dovetail right off
we
of that.
need crazy stories, right?
Okay.
Those probably weren't crazy enough.
So, first HR job I ever had, working for a company, a nonprofit, that faith-based nonprofit actually, that was doing direct care for the developmentally disabled and mentally ill. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, really tough work, working in group homes, things like that. Well, we show up on a Monday and the fax machine is piled, this deep. That usually meant something great happened on a third shift on the weekend. And so we start diving into it, reading all the reports. And apparently one of our employees had gotten a little bit upset at one of our other employees. The second employee was pregnant, young lady. And so the first one starts following her around saying, I'm going to curse you. I'm going to curse this baby. You have a voodoo curse on you. This baby's going to have problems and everything. And starts chasing her around the group home, shouting at her. The supervisor's called, comes out of bed, comes back to the place and sends them both home. And what do we even do? So we talk to everyone like, yes, this happens. So we bring the person in. I'm like, hey, this is my first time to sit on a termination meeting. I'll come sit with you and listen into this.
This is your first termination meeting.
First time to sit in. So I'm listening. My friend is the HR rep, going to be doing the handling everything. I just want to sit and listen, take notes. So we sit in this room, this tiny closet. I mean, like almost knee to knee. It is the smallest room ever. Meant for two people, and I've squeezed in. And he says, hey, here's what we found. Here's what you told. Is this true? She's like, yep. I'm like, okay, well, unfortunately, we're going to end your employment here because this is not something we can tolerate. This is discriminatory. We're going to go get your paperwork. So he gets up and walks out. I'm sitting here.
Oh God, she left you alone like this is after the person almost murdered.
Just left the curses on the last employee that she met. I'm thinking, after about 60 seconds, like, I'm going to go see if he needs any help. Like, get up and scoot out the door and go find something to do. Anything was in that room. So that was the voodoo curse story. Special moment.
I mean, how do you deal with witchcraft in the workplace? That's going to be next week.
Catch us next week on Champion Your Culture podcast. Okay, so the two stories I'm going to tell you that. All right, so let's get some real case studies. So number one, when it comes back to the leadership piece we're talking about, we have to pick the right ones. And that's hard to do sometimes. I had a chance to interview the head of leadership selection for the Mayo Clinic. Okay, world renowned for their amazing medical staff, everything else. And so I was talking to her, how do y'all get this reputation of being amazing? She said, well, what's really interesting, if you look closely at it, is we don't hire anybody that wants to be the superstar. We don't hire someone that says, I'm more important than the rest of the people on this team, because we found that doesn't lead to better outcomes. They may shine brightly for a moment, but everybody else is in the dark.
A firework sometimes.
And everybody else feels like, oh, well, what am I even doing here? They're getting all the attention. This isn't going to work out. So she said, we look for people intentionally who are going to raise the performance of everybody else, even if they're not the very, very, very best one in their field, because ultimately that's better for all of us here at the organization and for the patients we're serving. So amazing story there. And then the other one is when it comes to picking leaders from within, it's weird. It's a one-way street. Okay. If I said, hey, Ryan, we've been watching you for a while. You're doing good work. We want you to manage this team. You're like, okay. I don't know how to say no to that because it's going to be really weird, but I'll do it. And then 2 months later, like, this is terrible. I hate this. I don't like this. The only way to change is to leave. There's no way to go back to your other role. So years ago, one of my friends worked for a software company that actually did a try before you buy for managers and said, hey, Ryan, for the next 2 months, you get to try this new thing out. You get to explore this. You get to see if it's for you. We'll let you manage school people, give feedback on their performance, oversee what they're doing, assign tasks, interview someone new, like do a couple of those manager things. And then at the end of 2 months, you tell us, hey, I liked it. I want more, or not what I thought it was going to be, and go back to your role. And there's no weirdness. There's nothing, no strange thing. No baggage follows you emotionally. You just tried it out. And this created a way for people to get some exploration there, and it let other people who are not necessarily on that manager track get into that space, because they said anyone can give this a shot once you've been here for a certain amount of time and you're performing at this level, satisfactory. So they're giving people another way to approach this, and I love that because it destigmatizes the whole, I don't want to be in leadership. Like, oh, well, you must be just sandbagging and, trying to get on the easy street. No, I just want to be really great at this thing I do. There's some fun stories there of companies that are doing good work there and looking at this very differently And that's some encouragement that it can be done because it is being done.
Yeah, we had one of our clients that mentioned the very thing. You know, he had a direct report that was always first at work and stayed later and was the best at their job. And after they were promoted, they were fired 3 months later, because leading people and doing your work are two completely different roles within an organization. Completely.
Yes.
What's the thing that and George, you're in it too. Like what's does anything still surprise you? Like you've been in research for a little bit. Like what have you heard lately that you're like, well, or either it's new and surprising or it's surprising that it hasn't changed. Like for me, it's like engagement scores aren't getting better. You know, like all these engagement programs over the last decade, like it's nonstop. We're just inundated with like, try this, do appreciation. People want more belonging. You know, there's all this stuff that we're working toward, but engagement, I don't know. Maybe it is getting better. What are you seeing?
Can I share real quick, Ben? And I want you to wrap it up. Like, just because, like, from my perspective, being new to the research and being around Ben, and like data that I'm seeing, I've literally, I'm trying to understand it. And I'm trying to see it from Ben's perspective, but also with my own perspective. Something that really shocks me, from my perspective, and this is somebody that's coming into the HR world, not necessarily from it, is after the pandemic, my mindset naturally says assumption, right? And we all know what Mama said about assuming. But I thought, and I was confident that leadership and the power to care for people and connect with them would be different. Seeing some of the research just this year, like we just got in the last 30 days, where workers who are still dealing with unsupported leaders and managers are really struggling still, like nearly 8 times more likely to say they never get feedback from their direct manager. When I hear that number, 8 times more likely when they're unsupported by their manager, that just blows my head off the wall. Like, I'm just shocked. Then on the other side of it, I'm seeing HR tech companies and software companies that are providing solutions. And so I'm seeing the problem and I'm seeing solutions that are out there. And it's like, man, they're almost in 2 different worlds. Like, either these companies and organizations don't have a clue who this software company who can solve their problem, right? And we see this, Ryan, on our side from the leadership development, where we said you can't have programs anymore. You got to have a development. You got to have a strategy within your organization.
Yeah, you have to have process and plans.
And people run from it. Like, it's change. I don't want change. Another HR summer school theme conversation of change. Ben, go ahead and kind of discuss that. From my perspective, it was shocking over the last 3 years that the gap hasn't really closed on some of these cases from those who feel like they're unsupported.
That's true. And Ryan, what you said as well, the numbers on engagement have remained pretty static for a very long time. And I don't think it's because of a lack of care and concern from the HR audience. I think they completely understand it. They are banging their head against the wall trying to figure out what in the heck can I do here. And
I agree.
For better or for worse, it comes back to what we've spent a lot of our time here talking about, is the manager. They're picking someone who's not equipped for it. They're picking someone like your friend you mentioned, who was amazing at their job, and then burning them out as a manager role and throwing them away, instead of saying, hey, this was not a fit for you. Obviously, we want you to go back where you were because you were great, and we'll find someone else. Don't leave. Like, that sort of open conversation doesn't happen. And because of that, we lose great people over and over and over again. And there's no simple answer. Right? Educating managers, making sure that we're not overburdening them. That's been a common problem. There's another company that we work with that does retention prediction. They look at which employees are likely to quit a job. And one of the key things that stands out when the algorithm looks at everything about Ryan and his job, right? One of the things that stands out and says Ryan's likely to quit this job more so than George is if Ryan has a lot of time on his calendar blocked off for meetings and things like that, and not a lot of time to actually do anything he was hired to do. We want you to do this thing, and then guess what? We're going to fill your time up with meetings. Right? Those kinds of things we don't always think about. There's so many things tied into this. beer conversation. Goodness, I want to go in 10 directions.
I know. I'm wondering, like, because we do have the reality of the data in terms of engagement and how that's defined and whether somebody's engaged, disengaged, and all of the, the those that are quiet quitters, those that are, sticking around because they're getting paid just enough to stay. So they're doing just enough to not get fired, right? The Office Space thing. Like, are we just running around in circles? Like how does this change, right? So when I came into business, I had done, in Georgia in the same way, had spent so much time in nonprofit work and ministry and full-time church work and meaningful, purposeful. So I brought that into business and helped people engage to doing meaningful work outside of their everyday tasks, but it was tied to it, right? So if I accomplish doing these 3 sales, it provides our store the opportunity to do greater good in the world. That intrinsic motivation, right, where we're motivated by our work and contribution having meaning, goes back to how we're wired. Right? Like, we're wired for connection. We're wired for impact. We're wired to know that what we do has meaning and purpose. I used to say we all wake up in the morning with a necklace over, wearing a necklace, and we wear it around all day that says, "Tell me I'm important." Like I want to know that I matter, that I'm seen. If things aren't changing, what do we do, right? Like the frustration, do we just stay frustrated and keep trying? There's no silver bullet. I'm just wondering, like, what do we do with all of it then, if things haven't been getting better across the board, or have they? Maybe the data in terms of engagement's different, but I do hear people and leaders becoming more intentional about this, right? There's companies reaching out to us saying, "All right, we did some video training for our leaders, but we've never developed them." Like one-off trainings, and actually like investing and pouring into those leaders so that they can rise to that. It seems to me that we have a lot of senior leaders that don't know how to lead. And the HR people are the buffers between the senior leaders that don't know how to lead and the people that need to be led. And then we have frontline managers that have been promoted because senior leaders don't know how to lead, never develop them into leaders that they need to be.
Cascade.
We're just perpetuating the same bullshit over and over, where the people that don't know how to develop people are hiring people that need developed.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a cascade.
So what do we do with that?
If step one fails out, step 2 will fail out, step 3 will fail out. It's going to continue down that path until the very
I need
end.
an answer. I'm going to quit, because it's like, what?
All right.
What do we do? Right?
I will tell you this.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. So I think one of the things you mentioned, I don't know the answer to this. Okay. So I'm going to speak this not knowing what the actual answer is. The people who measure engagement and share that publicly, it is in their best interest for it not to improve, because that helps them. Okay. We don't measure engagement specifically in our research.
Great.
One of the things we do measure is belonging. And the amount of people that tell us that they feel accepted, respected, appreciated at work, which is what the measure of belonging is actually pretty darn high compared to what the numbers are you see on engagement. I don't think that means that maybe I'm not going above and beyond at work, but I do feel accepted. I do feel appreciated. Those are 2 different things, 2 different bubbles. And if I had to pick whether I want someone who is super engaged and giving the discretionary effort, which is what all the definitions say, or do I want someone that shows up to work knowing that today no one's going to treat me poorly? I know that they care about me. I think
to me that means the person is engaged. I think it might be a definition piece too, because I heard somebody at the coffee shop the other day, they were talking to a consultant. It was a business owner, and they're like, "Okay, our engagement scores aren't getting better." I shit you not, guys. This consultant said the only way those numbers are going to get different is if you remove I love what I do every day. Like, there's a question on there like, I get to do what I love every day. like the consultant said, go ahead and take that off, and then your engagement scores will increase, right? So I think some of it maybe we are getting better, maybe it's not doomsday, but also, like, to your point, maybe we stop using the term engagement and start saying, okay, if people have a sense of belonging, that's what we're really talking about. If people have a sense of fulfillment and meaning in their work, that's what we're talking about. To George's point, am I starting to feel more supported? Right.
Yes.
Are people actively involved? Is it Pride Month, and is my company just posting something because we need to post something, or is the owner and the senior leadership, are they showing up to the Pride events, right? Are they showing that we're not just tolerate it here, we're celebrate it, right? Are leaders involved in the everyday activities of the work, or are we so separated, right? So I think the connection that we have to leaders, and those leaders really stepping up, is really important. That belonging piece is huge. George, you talk about that all the time.
It rubs off from Ben. That when my first initiation was really falling in love with the psychological definition that Ben shared, and that being the root of everything. And for me, Ryan, and this is a balance when we think about what we say culture is, right? And then we look at what belonging is. There's some really, there's three words on both sides that really connect. And so, how our culture is a reflection of what I feel like in the workplace, as far as being, being connected, being respected, appreciated, and accepted by my direct leader. And so, for me to belong means that I'm connected to something, more than just what I do. I'm connected to someone who is leading me, supporting me in all aspects. And so, and when I say all aspects, maybe not that direct leader understanding fully what George is about, right? But there's a sense of that person cares enough, appreciates me, not for what I'm doing or where I'm going, but simply who I am today, right? Part of that development, we talk about, developing leaders and the need for that. Having a leader that supports you and accepts you for where you are right now, but also understands the value that you could bring and sometimes it's, the insecure person, right? George can be insecure and have a good leader that sees more than he sees, right? And I've been there many a times where I didn't realize my potential, right? But my direct leader saw something in me that threw me off because, one, maybe I've had trust issues in the past, maybe I've had abusive leaders in the past, and that's kind of pushed me away from getting connected. But I have a leader who truly cares for me now and sees my potential more than just doing a job. And man, that does something for me. It may take time, and that's where it comes into play, where leaders and HR leaders, what I've learned about HR leaders is that although they feel like giving up, probably sometimes in the back of their head, they never give up.
Yeah.
Right. They're serving because they see the potential. They talk, whether they're a recruiter, part of that TA time frame, they see that potential and they see the gifts, they see the heart behind that person. They just need a leader that cares enough that says, you're not who you should be right now, but I'm going to help you get there. I'm going to accept you for who you are. I'm going to appreciate what you bring to the table. But, man, I'm going to celebrate you in the long run. We're going to get somewhere with this.
Yeah, that's really championing people,
Yeah.
Goodness, there's a story I tell about a gentleman, George, you might have heard this before, talking about Antoine, that HR job I was talking about, one of those group homes. I did bring it all full circle here. I did an analysis of the data right at the company, trying to figure out what was causing turnover at the company. We had 600 people, turnover about 50 to 60% a year. So it was like a constant treadmill. As the new guy, of course, I had the wonderful job of all the new hires, all the terminations, processing every bit of paperwork. And sometimes the new hire and the termination paperwork for the same person the same day. So it was just a nightmare. And I found that one of our districts had turnover of about 20%. I was like, what is going on over there? Like, how are they doing this? Because they had the most challenging clients, the most difficult workload. And so I went and sat down, spent some time with the leader in that area. And he had a new hire come in that day. I'm just watching, like, what is he doing, so I can figure out how he's doing this to copy and paste this to the other leaders. Hopefully, was my hope there.
Yeah.
And so this person comes in, they're sitting down, they're taking a $7.50 an hour job, really tough. third shift, doing physical labor, working with clients that are sometimes not friendly. And he's like, I'm so glad you're here. I've been waiting for you to join, because when I met you in the interview, I knew you were going to be something special to add to our team. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to see you succeed here. You got so much potential, so much value to add, and the world will be better off for the work you're doing here. If you need anything, my door's open. I'm here for you. Let me know how I can help you succeed. And I'm sitting here listening to him talk to this person who's probably never been talked like that in their entire working lifetime.
Yes. Yeah.
Taking a $7.50 an hour job, thinking about quitting my own job and going to work for this guy, and completely outside my bubble of HR, because he's so encouraging, so inspiring. And those kind of leaders, I tell that story often because I want to remind leaders that are listening to this right now. You're thinking, gosh, like we're painting this really kind of bleak picture. Leaders like Antoine exist in your business right now.
Yes, they do.
It is your job to find them, elevate their stories, tell their stories loudly, broadcast them where you can, because that will tell your other leaders who aren't at Antoine levels what you expect from them, what great looks like. That will give them something to shoot for, instead of just saying, well, no one's gotten on to me yet, so I guess I'm doing okay. I know that 3 people on the team have quit in the last month, but that was all these other decisions. Maybe they just need to fix a pay. Like, no, let's give these stories the airtime that we can, because that's going to help everybody. That's going to help every single person in the organization be better, especially our managers.
I love that, because that provides something very practical. It's finding what those people and amplifying their stories. I love that. It reminds me of my kids when they were little and they would be talking and I was trying to watch Sports Center. I'd turn Sports Center up because I wanted to focus on Sports Center. If we want something to grow in our business, we need to turn it up. We need to amplify. I love that, because that doesn't leave us with, well, shit, nothing we can do about it. Well, people are already doing things about it. Find those people are doing things about it, and highlight, spotlight, turn the light on the stuff that is going well, like what is working in the culture, and focus on that and continue to amplify that. Because to your point, then people know, okay, if they're talking about this, if this is what the story and the narrative of what's being shared is, that means that this is what's prioritized. This is what the expectation is. This is how we know that we're work ready, that we're ready for greatness, right? Love that. George.
Oh, I thought you was going to ask me a question. I was like, yes.
No more. I have no more questions to ask. I would like to kind of end this whole time just on what excites us about the future of business. Just in general, the what excites us. Is it AI? Is it new tools? Is it solutions? Is it just, for me, and I'll kick it off. I love that. The story of rehumanizing business is being amplified. I'm excited about more human experiences and more transformational leadership in the future. Like, it was rare before the pandemic to hear about leaders with empathy. Like, I know that was like a term that kind of kicked in, but during the pandemic, like, that idea of what a true authentic leader is moving forward shifted. And I'm excited about that expectation and younger generations placing expectations on the company, not just companies putting expectations on people. So it's almost like as leaders, we're being held to different standards in business than before. I like the new standards. So yeah. For you guys.
So there was a business roundtable a couple years ago where the CEOs got together and they changed the definition of what business success is, away from just being about profitability to saying this matters, how we treat our people and the outcomes there as well. And we're seeing, I'll take a really big picture view for a second. The SEC, when they're asking about a company's filings for all their financial stuff, they're increasingly asking for people metrics, for HR related metrics. How are you treating your people? Because if you are killing it when it comes to your profit margins and you are killing your people, that's one thing we want to know as investors, because we want to find someone else that's not doing that. We want to find the right things, the right kinds of companies to invest in. When it comes to how we look at companies, George has seen this firsthand. We look at companies and vet them from a technology perspective. We don't say, hey, what are all the tools you're building and how are they going to do this? But who are you behind the company? How do you treat your people? How do you care about your community? Because if we don't see them doing those kinds of things, then they're just building it just to make a buck. They're not building it to create a better workplace. And that's what I'm all about. So I'm seeing lots of signals out there that say this is continuing to come to a head. They're putting more pressure. We're seeing increasing interest in these areas. And if I can throw the AI thing out there for a second, the talk I'm giving multiple times this year around AI is, let's look at these tools not as it's taking away parts of our jobs, because that's the scary side of it. Look at it as, what does this enable for us? What does this make possible? And right now, if you're using some of the generative tools, you can go in there and punch in a prompt and say, I need a leadership development plan for Ryan. Here are 2 competencies he needs to work on. Give me some specific action points on how he can build those things, how it can be more authentic, how it can build trust, right? Whatever those things are. And you can punch that in a prompt, and it will give you back some things pretty quickly and easily, instead of saying, I need a leadership development template off the internet, and I'm going to try to, it can help speed that stuff up so we can become better experts, better professionals, better supporters of our people. That thrills me to no end, because it allows us to have the impact that many of us that got into HR wanted to have when we started. Just like those teachers who get in thinking, I'm going to save the world. Those nurses who get in and say, I'm going to save lives. We get in because we want to save people their work lives. We want to create a better atmosphere, and we get bogged down with all the other stuff. And the tools out there are now enabling us. They're smart enough to help us really achieve that vision we're looking for. And that's really an exciting prospect.
I love that. It's almost like you have a really, really smart assistant next to you all the time.
Yes.
It's so great. Yeah. Like an HR generalist that's like super, super powerful. That's great. That's awesome. George, what about you? Exciting for the future.
What excites me, I'm a culture and leadership guy. I almost said nerd.
You can be a nerd.
I'm becoming a data nerd with this. I'm very intrigued. I've always been data driven from a business standpoint, but I've always believed that data is data, but we still need human to make the data make sense. And I think having a relationship with Ben and seeing that from his perspective as well, I'm very intrigued on, like, me championing my purpose, which is people and leading people, and seeing them, elevate their life, is very good. Now that I'm seeing data behind the what and the why, I'm very, very much interested in bringing value to people and organizations with what I'm finding. So that intrigues me. And then as Ben, and I, just to plug for Ben, because it's not his latest book, but he is kind of getting back into the AI.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Ben has Talent Scarcity. They just released.
Can you put that back up there? I want to see it.
But he also has artificial intelligence for HR. And so some of the data, you can go out and you can find this, Ben, as well on Amazon, right? All of your books are there. Okay. But this is the second edition of artificial intelligence for HR, using AI to support and develop a successful workforce. Some of the things that Ben was talking about just recently, you'll find some of those key things in the book as well. So multiple author, Ben Eubanks. But I'm also, from the data standpoint, I'm intrigued on that, Ryan, but I'm also intrigued on how AI does bring value. There's a lot of companies that are already, and software companies within the space, that are already making an impact, and there's a lot of changes. A lot of people are scared of it and afraid of it. Most people are afraid of it, that's going to replace them. But, the challenge is, how do we use this to our advantage and bring value to the organization and grow as people? So there's a lot of fun stuff there. But those are two things. The culture and leadership is always going to be at the forefront. But, seeing and being a part of Lighthouse Research and Advisory on the data standpoint kind of helps you move a little bit easier to say, hey, this is what the data is saying. And this is how we make the change that's necessary. And like I said, it starts at the top. How are we taking care of each other? Or even more than that, it starts with us, right? Yeah, how are we taking care of ourselves, right? How am I taking care of me? How am I leading me? Therefore, I'll be able to lead and take care of others first.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've been passionate about, man. And I'm excited about. And so I'm also excited about July 11th to 12th. We have
we do have that coming up. July 11th to 12th. We at Culture Good have our certification coming up. If you're in culture, leading culture, and would like a plan to follow, and to be developed and empowered to do so. July 11th and 12th in Indianapolis, Indiana. Mark it down your calendars. Reach out to us. We have that coming up. That's real exciting. Ben, how do people get a hold of you? You said a lot of really important aspects of how to do this work, right? So I would imagine there's HR leaders in general, owners that are like, okay, I need a Ben in my business. I need Lighthouse to be a part of it. So how do people reach out to you?
So LHRA.io is for Lighthouse Research and Advisory. You can search my name quickly, easily find me. TheBenEubanks.com also links to all the books and some of the other work that I've done over the years. So a couple different ways to do that. But the books that I write, the content that I do is all of the same way the conversation went today. Very practical, very relatable, very easy to understand, lots of examples. So thanks again for the chance to join you both and for the impact y'all are having on the community, because it's an exciting time for us to be able to really impact people in a positive way. And Ryan, you said like after post pandemic, what does that mean for connection? I think it's more important than ever.
I agree. And thank you, Ben, and thank you everyone that's joined us today on Champion Your Culture, sponsored by George. You know what it's sponsored by. The
Culture of Good.
I like you saying it because you got that deep.
You did like the choir thing, like I'm in an orchestra. I was like, the. I feel like I should have sung it.
The Culture of Good. And we always partner with Lighthouse Research and Advisory, and excited about all of you that will reach out to Ben and connect with his work. I'm leaving this conversation. I started it, to be honest, tired and on caffeine, but also feeling like things aren't getting better. And after today, I'm excited about the space of business and HR, and I'm happy to hear that people are feeling a sense of belonging more at work, and that is increasing. And so I'm going into this day really, really excited. So thank you so much for being on and sharing some of the data that is challenging, but also data that allows us to know our work is not in vain, that it is actually working. We're not just running in circles trying to help people, that we're actually making an impact. So thank you for that, Ben. Really appreciate it.
Hey,
George,
I want to give a shout out real quick to Tamisha. The word of the day, the comment of the day. Tamisha, make sure you reach out to me, DM me. I'm going to send you a signed copy of my book, because this means everything to me. This right here means that I'm going somewhere. She said, George is beginning to sound like Ben now.
Lord.
That is in reference to Ben is the king of data in the HR world. HR summer school, we call him Principal Ben, but whenever the word data comes up, there's a smile, there's a blush, there's a passion and a fire that lights up within Ben. You know what? I've been studying so much. That is an honor. So, Tamisha, please reach out to me. I'm going to make sure I send you a copy of my book, Champion Your Purpose.
Yeah.
Congrats for that comment. That blessed me. So I'm making it. Mama, I made it.
Mama, I made it. Well, thank you so much.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Hi, friends. Thanks for joining us on Champion Your Culture podcast today.
We're so excited that you're here and want to invite you to connect with us. You can watch the show weekly on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and listen anywhere you get podcasts.
Subscribe today to get new relevant content each week on how to champion yourself and your team. Thanks again for listening to Champion Your Culture.